According to the computer. Hello, Mr. Josh Blau. Welcome back.
Good to see you.
So you want to laugh. Last time was too serious.
Last time was very serious.
Yeah.
Like I was just emerging and we were just creating on people and
I was just creating Spiritual Tradie podcast and we didn't know what it was all about.
Exactly. And
we're a little bit like, what are we doing? Yeah. So what's been happening? Where are you now?
I'm in Byron Bay at the moment for this coronavirus lockdown situation. And
Moved to the promised land.
Sorry?
Moved to the promised land.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know all about that.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful spot here. I'm really enjoying this time and space to relax, actually. It's really nice.
Beautiful. And so you're teaching?
Teaching online mostly now. We've got an online course that I've been doing with Izzy for our little On People yoga. And then I'm doing mostly privates and mentoring and private meditation courses, which has been lovely. And it's amazing how easy the online thing is and how accessible it actually is for people.
Yeah, it's really good, especially at this time, to be able to reach out and connect people that otherwise would be very isolated. So it's great.
How's your teaching going?
Good, man. Loving it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, obviously we prefer to be in person just to get that, you know, feel the good vibes, but it's been amazing to see how potent the teachings still are on the internet. And, you know, I think another level to it is people in their own space, they get to feel comfortable where they are. Yeah. And so that helps them go a little bit deeper as well, which is nice.
Been getting a lot of good reports.
Yeah. Yeah. And then because we don't have to, you know, have a physical space for group meditation, people can just be there on Sunday in their own space, in their pajamas. It doesn't matter, you know.
The video turned off.
What's that?
House with the video turned off, just walking around the house.
Pretty much, yeah.
Dude, what's your background?
My background is the rainforest.
Is that the virtual backgrounds that you can choose?
Yeah, it's virtual. Yeah, you know, I've got some other ones up my sleeve. We might get to later. If we need to get weird, we've got the platypus. We got Shiva. If we want to talk about Shiva later on.
Boom.
On the Shiva. We got Tamika.
Tamika.
Yeah, but I'm gonna
resorting to putting up random friends.
I'm gonna podcast her on Sunday, and I'm gonna use that as the backdrop for her podcast on Sunday. She doesn't know that yet, so hopefully she doesn't watch this video and find out.
Earlier, he was Shri Irene Ace.
I didn't. I resisted the urge to do that one. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. So, and we've got also the main man right here.
Pandiji.
Yeah.
Hey, good.
And if you don't know who that is the master of ceremonies, the pundit that does all of the fire ceremonies in India, and he is a ball of love and devotion, and we love him.
Vedic MC.
A Vedic MC, yeah. So we'll go back to the rainforest because otherwise we'll get distracted. So what's happening? What's happening in your world?
Mate, lots has been happening in my world.
Yeah.
I think just really being grateful for this opportunity to rest. I feel like we had so much travel planned. We're meant to be in Bali now, and then Tuscany, and then Bali again, and then India. And it's just, you know, nature has lovingly, well, not so lovingly for some of us, but for a lot of us, lovingly said, like, you know, take a rest and take the rest of the year off. And it's been amazing. I've been playing tennis, by the way, ready for the the Open. Yeah, man. Played
going down
last night. I'm good. I'm getting some lessons. So just getting back into my body and practicing, doing, you know, longer meditations, longer shavasanas. And I mean, the main thing that I'm hearing from students is just how grateful people are to be able to take this time back for themselves. And I mean, this is part of the stuff that we can dive into in terms of, you know, what that is and how do we know what that is for ourselves.
Yeah.
It's been really nice to have that time and space to dive into it.
Yeah, dive into it then. What is that? And it's kind of strange because we kind of normalize such a busyness, right? So you want to talk about that?
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, just even what you said is so accurate. We normalize busyness and we get so used to feeling anxious and so used to feeling depressed and so used to feeling alone and lonely. And, you know, I think one of the great lessons that will come out of this time is how much we need each other. You know, and says how much we belong to each other, and how much we need human connection. There was a funny meme saying that wouldn't it be great if it was Zoom that was behind coronavirus? Because everyone's on Zoom now because we all just need to connect with each other. We all need to feel like we're interacting and engaging.
Yeah,
And
I've got a theory about who's behind coronavirus. It's the people that make disposable cups. They noticed that Keep Cups was getting too strong, and they were like, "We've got to put an end to it." So they just let the corona out.
I want to hear about some of your recent conspiracy theories and government
Ooh,
controversial conversations. So I'd like to dive into that later on in this potty. But yeah, I
yeah,
guess just a train of thought. That this, uh, you know, I feel like now in Byron, people are becoming less concerned. Coronavirus, people are starting to wander the streets more. People are hugging. I saw people at the market interacting. Social distancing is kind of slowly out the window. And for me, at least, what I realized how much I need to feel held or to feel loved. And even though I've been in such a beautiful environment, this distancing, going out on the street and seeing a friend, someone who I'm relatively close to, and even for a moment, just like questioning, can I give this person a hug, or can I, shake someone's hand? It's so foreign. And I think coming out of this, a lot of us are going to realize, a lot of people are going to realize how important touch is and how important intimacy is, and how much that was actually missing from our life already because we were just normalizing this, as you said.
yeah, totally. But also, it's going to be a slow process for a lot of people finding that again. I think
Mm.
for a lot of people that if they didn't have that already, and then they're scared of getting germs, there's going to be a lot of kind of distancing that's gonna hang over from this. Just a second, Josh. I think we're dropping out
What's your
here. Hang on a sec.
in some technical difficulties? I don't think it's me.
It might be me over here. So just
We
make some
just got
adjustments
some.
and see if that fixes it. Are you back there, mate?
I know this might be controversial, but I think we've got 5G. Is it already
Ooh,
installed?
ooh. No, you can't. You can't have 5G in
Well,
Byron.
I think that when I click on my thing, MBN, it gives me the option of 5G. So
Ooh.
it is great internet, although I have been experiencing severe headaches.
Yeah. Awesome.
I'm joking. The modem got installed in my room because it was the only place they could install the modem. And I went to Bunnings and bought like 20 foot of phone cabling so I could run the wire out of my room and downstairs. And for like 2 nights, I had crazy headaches. I couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
But the internet is extremely fast. So
Yeah. You win some with the speed and you lose some with the brain. Jeez,
so
man.
tell me what's your view on how people are going to adjust with that, with intimacy, and how people are going to feel disconnected when we come out of this. And do you think, one thing that I kept hearing is that our immune systems will actually suffer more because we're not interacting with other immune bodies? What's
Yeah.
your view on that?
I totally think that, like, even before this started to happen, we're always cross-contaminating. We're always picking up little bits and pieces from each other. And the body's constantly in a process of digesting these foreign bodies that we're picking up with, whether it be through touch or through contamination in food and whatever. And being all separate and being all super clean will lead to kind of uh, a sterile environment, which creates the right conditions for another virus to come through that's more damaging, because we've been isolated from each other. Then we're not building that herd immunity that constantly we're kind of doing. So I think that ultimately separation is a like a short-term solution and probably doesn't have great long-term effects for us.
Mm. It's been interesting to see how it's affecting the yoga world and how it's affecting businesses. And I know a lot of in-person businesses are suffering, but it's been interesting to see how the yoga and meditation world has kind of just jumped into a new sphere, a new atmosphere. And also with Instagram, how on Instagram Live, it was just every morning there was like free classes and every person was giving everything away for free. And then I feel like so many of those people probably thought, hold on a second, if I'm giving everything away for free, then how am I going to make money?
Yeah.
And then eventually, 90% of those people giving free classes away just kind of disappeared and vanished. And now it's kind of normalized a little bit where people are back to offering, paid offerings. But it's been, I think this whole epidemic or this whole pandemic is going to change the way we see yoga and the way we see meditation. And the way I feel like, there's a popular studio here, and I was chatting to one of the owners, and they said, well, they might just continue just doing Zoom classes instead of real classes, because in a real class they can only fit 25 people, but in a Zoom class they can have 300 people.
Yeah, right.
And so it's like, but I think we're going to see that all over the world. I think most yoga studios, a lot of yoga studios won't want to pay rent. They won't want to pay wages. They won't want to pay, all the other costs that come along with running a studio, when you can just have a Zoom subscription for like $200 a year or $300 a year, the highest one or whatever it is. And you can be the main teacher, and you can have 2 or 3 other teachers teaching for you. And you can have 500 people doing the classes. And I think that's the next level of the monetization of yoga, of people just going, okay, I just want to keep making money from this industry. I mean, man, people are doing 200-hour trainings online now.
What?
It's like, okay, how do you do adjustments? How do you break down alignment? How do you review people? I mean, it's, I always don't want to get into that conversation because I feel like I'll just come off sounding really judgmental, but I feel extremely passionate about it because it's just, I'm bewildered by it. I mean, I get that people need to make money. I understand, but at what cost? And, at how many more yoga teachers do we need? Like, how desperate are we for that? I mean, I heard this statistic that in LA, there's more yoga teachers than there are in India.
No doubt. And so now that you've realized that's the way that the future of yoga sort of going, have you and Izzy started to like direct your attention and energy into building an online situation for the on people, or?
Not really, man, because, we're big believers in creating less teachers, but better quality ones. And
I don't mean for teacher training specifically, but for like regular classes and stuff. Or are you more happy just to do one-on-ones?
Yeah, I think, her and I, we love what is, and we love what's been created within it. But we're both wanting, to move in different directions now in personal things that we want to offer, while still maintaining, what is and what it does. And so once everything opens up, will still do teacher trainings. We still have this online platform, this course that we've just released, and we'll probably release a few more courses. But there are a number of other things that we're both wanting to do that kind of can't be under the umbrella of because is a tantric hatha yoga teacher training school, yoga teacher training academy. And so, for example, I want to record a kirtan album. I want to do more kirtan wala work with a full band. And so there's things that I want to put my attention on that I can't do within the realm of and she's got a whole bunch of stuff as well that she's working on. So
like a
we're
tennis
kind of
career.
beautifully like a career in tennis.
Yeah.
I can't wait for her to hear that. And so it's been nice because it's allowed us to really solidify like what we love about what we want to be, and then allow us to do different things. And within that, I think, I don't know, I'm in a place in my life now, and when I look at my teachers and the people that I aspire to be like, I feel simplicity is the way forward for me. And I want less of the travel and less of the kind of Instagram success and less of the striving to kind of be this headline teacher at festivals, and more just to have students with lots of inquiry where I can, flex my teaching muscle and really go, because the deeper your student wants to go, the deeper you have to go as a teacher. And really seeing that in Johnny recently has been really inspiring to think, okay, well, what would life look like if I wasn't traveling all the time? Because I actually don't know. I've been on the road for like 3 years since our last conversation, and whilst that's purposeful and fulfilling, it's worn a little bit thin now, and I'm kind of not so into that anymore.
Yeah. And so yeah, what else then?
What else? Yeah, I think, I made this post recently that, I thought would be interesting for us to talk about because there was
Yeah.
so much. I was surprised with how much feedback I'd gotten. I mean, I started posting these Instagram TVs when the Corona started, because I felt so. I actually want to park that and sidestep here for a moment, but I felt so the last few years so disheartened with Instagram, and so like I was just swimming upstream, like I was trying to fight some losing battle. People with 300,000 followers, 500,000 followers who don't know the first thing about breath or the first thing about yoga, becoming like voices for the yoga community or voices for the meditation community, or it just felt like I was never going to be enough in what I was sharing. That was honestly how it felt for me. And why does anyone want to hear something deep and intimate when it's just going to get scrolled through? Like, why would we actually put any of ourselves into that?
Mm-hmm.
And also writing has never felt good for me. And then when this Corona thing kind of hit, and everyone was on social media, it almost felt like there was a need to give out good content because people are actually seeking it. And yeah, before I keep going into that, I mean, what's your perspective on social media pre and post Corona? Because you've also had a bit of a spike in sharing really beautiful and valuable content with a nice contrast of like, Jim
Yeah.
Carrey.
Well, that's it, mate. And like you said, there's a lot of stuff on there already. But yeah, I definitely just felt the impulse as well, just to share from where I'm coming from, because I feel like this time is going to cause a lot of confusion and a lot of upheaval for people. And I just wanted to make it clear that I'm here ready to teach if people want to learn and go deeper into their practice or need to reach out to somebody. Um, yeah, and I guess a lot of my social media before Corona had been more sarcastic and more the jokey side. But when the world flipped, I was like, well, now's the time to get a little bit more serious about what my purpose is
Mm.
and trying to serve, people that are going to be going through a big awakening now, you know? And so while I have been more conscious about putting out good content and coming from a place of service, this, the occasional Jim Carrey does sneak through, yeah. But even when I'm doing that, I'm trying to share something valuable, So yeah.
And I think it adds a lightness to it. I mean, it adds a really nice flavor because we're all kind of saying the same thing, right? We're all, different speaker versions of the same knowledge,
Yeah.
especially the lineage and systems that we're from. So it's nice when there's a little bit of humor or something a little bit different to it. So anyway, so I felt really called to share these Instagram TVs, which I hadn't really done too much of. I wasn't really feeling writing. And so I just started chatting to camera and got really great responses from people really loving these TVs. And then I came across a photo the other day of me in this, like, from 4 years ago or 3 years ago, in like a lotus with my feet, headstand with like two fingers. I mean, it was just like, I was like, who is that? I couldn't even imagine now being able to do that, with my neck. I feel like an old Jewish man with my neck cramp and my bad Jewish everyone. So I have the right to to use those kind of jokes. But with my old, like, sore, complaining body, like I come out of the surf and I'm like, oy vey, my bloody neck, it's so stiff. And so I'm looking at these photos like, who is this guy in a headstand? And then when I was actually connecting to the photo itself, I remember that period in my life being so unfulfilling and so rajasic, so energy driven and focused on, like, I was just so determined to like succeed in asana. I remember walking into my 500-hour teacher training in New York. So I did my 500-hour with Dharma Mitra in New York. It's amazing, Brazilian master. And, you walk into the room and people are just in like one hand handstands with lotus, like Pinchamayurasana lotus, all these just crazy asanas, like insane back bends. And immediately you just feel lesser than. Like, immediately you just feel like, oh, I can't do that. Or if I can't do that, I'm not as good a yogi. And, you know, I think the way Instagram has developed over the last 10 years has been this, you know, you're good at yoga if you can do these poses. Like, okay, if you're good at yoga, if you can do Kundalini, but you're better if you can do Kundalini 1 and then switch to the other side. But then you're even better if you can do Kundalini and press up to handstand. But then you're even better than that if you can do handstand and back down. And it's like this never ending thing. And then you have these acrobats come along, or these gymnasts come along who do yoga for like a week, and they can do all of that stuff. And they're basically just put up on this pedestal as amazing yoga teachers. And yeah, so I posted this conversation of just sharing my experience that, you know, only when I first learned to meditate, and when I first learned to meditate, my meditation teachers were just like, hold on a second. So you've been doing all this yoga, but you haven't been meditating? And I'm like, what? They were just so confused by it. And I just felt like not educated in it. And, you know, I even remember on my 500 hour, not to speak badly about them, but just to talk about the experience. I'd already been meditating. I'd already been practicing Vedic meditation for about a year. And on my 500 hour, you know, we're doing like 2 hours of asana a day, 35 minutes of pranayama. And then we'd finish with like 5 minutes of meditation.
Yeah.
Like, it was just bewildering. And then I was talking to the mentors, and I'd be like, guys, like, why aren't we doing, like, we should be doing like an hour of meditation, or at least like 20 minutes. And they were just like, it's too advanced. And that's what the 800 hour is for.
Yeah.
And it just, you know, it was mind boggling. It just revealed to me that, you know, there's so many different ways to do things. And that way that I was doing things for me was leaving me very unsatisfied. And, you know, we talk about being established in being. What does established in being mean? It means the ability to notice the capacity of our awareness interacting with everyday life. So to what degree can I notice myself interacting in the world? And then to what degree can I allow nature to acquire my nervous system? So it's actually being, or the universe, that's moving through me and interacting daily, rather than just my mind or my intellect. And when I think about myself back then, it was just completely intellect driven, completely mind driven. And, you know, I had no idea what, you know, Sat was, or Satchitananda, or like bliss consciousness, or any of this stuff that, you know, we kind of learn in the Vedic world and the Vedic perspective. But it's actually all the same thing, because within that there's asana, within that there's pranayama. But, you know, in the West, we've sort of compartmentalized these things. I just want to do the asana because it feels good, or I just want to get strong, or I just want to, you know, I just want to get my workout. I mean, I heard someone say it the other day. This is the last thing I'll say before I hand it back to you. But, you know, I heard this woman I was chatting to on the phone say, I know this sounds really bad. So there's already a consciousness to it. But, you know, there's this yoga studio down the road, but it's called Yoga Sculpt. So it's like heated yoga with weights and high reps. And I just feel so good afterwards. And I just get such a good sweat on. And I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, great. Like, you know, we all got to do what works. We all got to do what works for us. And, you know, it's all good either way. No worries. And truly believing that now, you know, not in a dramatic way that there's one thing for everyone, but, you know, my message at the end of this post was, I hope you all learn faster than I did. You know, I had to have a wrist injury and a neck injury and a hip injury to kind of get the wake up message to just like chill the fuck out. Like, relax a little bit, do some yoga nidra, do some meditation. Like, why you know, I used to do handstands on the concrete outside. Like, why was I doing that? You know, because I thought I was going to get the handstand quicker. It's just crazy. And yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
I'm
It points back to, you know, evolution, and you know, looking back at that picture, seeing where you've come from, and then realizing the processes that you've gone through, evolving as a student and as a teacher, you know. And so I'd say back at that time as well, you're probably teaching people that were also very driven to get the peak poses as well. And so there's that played into it. And then as you developed, you probably found teachers that were more supportive of the more energetic hatha yoga, like Rod Striker, you know, learn to meditate with Johnny, get more into the knowledge side of the yoga as well, which I feel like is a huge component for everybody. You know, it's okay to go and bend the body and to get the connection and get the awareness as well, but having the knowledge is something that I've always loved, and obviously you love as well. That when you start to combine them all, and you have the awareness, and then you have the awareness of the knowledge and the direct experience, you have all these pillars coming together. It really enlivens the experience of life, and it speeds up the evolution process as well.
Yeah. And what comes up to me is what comes up for me while you're saying that is, Rod talks about this a lot, is what's blocking me from allowing myself to have that experience, where we're just such a feel good culture. We just want to do what feels good. I mean, I hear it all the time, man. I'm just doing this practice because it feels good, or I'm doing this mantra because it feels good. We'll talk about mantra in a second, but this idea of just doing what feels good isn't necessarily always what's good for us.
Yeah.
Because often what feels good is just a further patterning of our existing habits and our existing patterns, like going back to an ex.
It feels good to eat a block of chocolate while you're doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like going back to an ex feels good at the time, but then you're like, uh-oh, why this? And, this kind of like fast-paced style of yoga that's available to us, it feels good, but it feels good because we're continuing to distract ourselves. We're continuing to, and I'm talking from 10 years of power vinyasa experience, that we're just pushing and pushing and pushing because we don't want to sit with the discomfort of who we truly are. And that, when you ask me how am I going, it's kind of what I'm going through at the moment. I've been doing some pretty deep work with an amazing therapist, and really going through understanding why I behave the way I behave in every aspect of my life, romantically, with friends, with family, as a teacher, on social media. And it's been really transformative and really powerful. And I think that's really what Izzy and I are bolstering as Om's main message, which is, practice what will improve your life, not just what will make you feel good. Not what will make you feel good for 5 minutes after class, and then you go back to your phone and you're stressed again, but practice something that's going to, allow you to connect to that part of yourself that's unchanging. And when you connect to that, that becomes your overriding experience. So that, I listened to that self-reliance potty today, and I really enjoyed how he talked about, how he spoke about, when you're established in that place enough, it's only your level of consciousness that allows you to react to anything as a problem. Because your level of consciousness sees things as either a solution or as a problem. And when you get to a particular state, you just see solutions. You just see, oh, okay, something's changing now, and there's actually a gift that's coming around the corner. So can I see what that gift is, rather than seeing just the rigid attachment I had to that change,
Yeah. And it all makes so much sense, but it can be harder. It can be harder to put into practice, especially as we're starting to learn meditation, starting to come to yoga. We need to kind of understand as well that we're all where we're at, and it's okay to not be anywhere in particular on that path, just to be happy where you are, and to appreciate where you're at. I had someone ask me yesterday, how come awakenings can't be smooth, and is there a course for unbumpy awakenings? And from my perspective, the course is find a community and share the experience, because everyone else is going through the same thing. It's only when we do it in isolation that it gets bumpy, I feel, anyway.
Totally. It's just not normal for us to be isolated. But I want to just jump back to what you said about just being happy with where you're at, right? I remember hearing Ron talk about this perspective of like, and Johnny talks about it a lot, like you can't tell yourself to be happy, right? You can't think your way into happiness. And so if you're actually experiencing sadness, or if you're experiencing loneliness, or you're experiencing fear, it's really hard to just kind of be happy with where you're at,
I'll be clear. I shouldn't say be happy, but you can be accepting of where
Yeah.
you're at, rather than trying to blanket that with an emotion of happiness, but be accepting of, this is where I am right now, and it's okay, as opposed to feeling like I'm failing because I'm not in some future place where I don't get bothered by problems. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because that post, the headstand one, I feel like it triggered a number of people because, at least from my perspective, I didn't write anything that was demeaning to myself, but yet a number of people felt the need to say, like, you were exactly, you were beautiful at that time and you were exactly where you needed to be. But the point I was making, or at least from my perspective, was just noticing the gross difference of who I was then to who I am now based on how I practice. And, it's interesting because I feel like, yes, whilst I love what you're saying and I totally agree with self-acceptance, I think there's also a trap in that where we just kind of accept everything the way it is because we're actually not desiring to move through the pain. We're not desiring to face what we're experiencing. And I don't think there's like a right or wrong in this conversation. I'm just sharing a perspective in a different shade to what you're saying.
Yeah.
That whilst we like accept where we are because we're not trying to attain some future phase of enlightenment, which is what I think you're saying. I think a lot of people get into a trap of just, being like, I'm okay with where I am as an excuse to not actually have to move through what's really painful. And I mean, for me at the moment, it's loneliness. Like I've been experiencing, really bitter loneliness and really, deep in my soul. Like I can feel it like in my heart, and then noticing like, okay, well, how do I act when I feel that? Because now I'm super aware of it. It's not just like I don't feel good, or today I didn't feel so great, and or I'm having an off day. It's like I know what these feelings are. I can recognize what they are and where they're coming from and the source of them. Dating family, right? That's maybe for another podcast.
Yeah.
But how am I then acting? How am I then choosing to act in these moments? And for me, that plays out with how I act in relationships, in friendships, and yeah. So it's interesting. I mean, that was coming up for me as you were saying that.
Yeah.
I think there's two sides to it.
Yeah, I agree too. Like, I agree that from the perspective of if we have a practice, which means that we're consciously moving forward, we're consciously choosing to evolve, and we're moving in that direction. That's where the kind of self-acceptance, piece comes in. Because if we're just sitting still and we're not doing any practices, or we're just happy where we are because we don't want it, we're afraid to evolve or afraid to move, obviously that's not a sustainable place to be. But I just meant more like when listening to someone like Tom Knoll speak, because let's say he's completed the evolution, right? He's someone that has gone,
for argument's sake, that he's enlightened.
For argument's sake, right? And so when you hear someone in that state of consciousness talk and speak knowledge, it can, whether you have a practice or not, if you're on the path, you're on your own journey, it can feel like you're failing if you are not having that experience of, oh, change is happening and it's only a solution, or it's only an opportunity. Obviously we'd like to see that perspective in every moment, but I'm just saying, for people that listen to that kind of knowledge spoken and feel not aligned with it, that's quite a normal thing to feel like, I understand he might be speaking truth, but it's hard to swallow, especially if I'm struggling, so.
Yeah, if it's not your embodied experience. And
Yeah.
I think everything, right? Like,
Yeah.
when I remember doing down dog, and the teacher would be like, now just relax and take 5 breaths in this pose. And I'm like, but my fucking hamstrings are on fire.
Yeah.
But it's not your experience. You can't relate to it. It's just an idea. And that's, that's what I love about a lot of Johnny's work now, is it's just so embodiment focused. It's just forget everything, just get embodied, just let go, be in that experience. And yeah, so it's yeah.
But obviously meditation was something that cultivated the awareness for you to transition from the striving to get the peak pose kind of teacher into a more subtle, more energetic kind of knowledge based kind of teacher. Is that what is it? Is there other things as well, or is that something that's key?
Yeah, I mean, meditation was definitely the pillar. It was the crown jewel of what I got from. I mean, meditation essentially is yoga. It's the merging of individuality and universality. And and the experience of the small self and the big self coming together. And meditation kind of facilitated that experience. I have found kirtan and bhakti yoga to be a really wonderful tool in understanding how to connect to the heart,
Mm.
and understanding how to be with someone and see frustration and allow yourself to meet that frustration with love, or to meet that frustration with support, because the sort of the main principle of bhakti yoga is that we're in service all the time, and we're just completely selfless, and whether it's in service to myself or it's in service to Shiva, like you saw before in the podcast. Can we get a picture? Can we get Shiva up there?
Mahadev. Here we go. There he is.
Yeah, so you'll often see in India these deities presented or promoted, but the masters that I've sat with, and I've had the great fortune of sitting with some incredible masters, they will be the first to say that these deities are depictions of states of consciousness that reside within us and within the world around us. And so the principle of bhakti yoga is that we're just in service to these laws of nature. And so, for example, Shiva, the unmanifest unboundedness, which is Shiva, manifests as the destruction operator. And so the destruction operator we see in everything. A flower blooms, and then eventually after its life, it dies, it's destroyed. Everything has a process of dissolution, and out of that process of dissolution allows space for creation. And really starting to understand these principles allowed me to shift how I interacted with people in a daily way, in a day-to-day life. I'll tell you a quick story. I normally tell this during kirtans, but I was at Amma's ashram in the south of India, not hugging Amma, a different Amma. And I was there with Ido from Ido and Joe, a wonderful human, and his partner had passed away maybe 6 or 8 months prior to us being there. And I was so used to grief as a Western concept where, why did they leave? And, I'm so upset and all this kind of stuff. And, I'm never going to recover from this, and life will never be the same. And, this kind of mourning process, particularly Judaism. I'm Jewish, and it's a year-long mourning process that you have to go through. Like, they recommend it. You go to shul and you pray and you mourn this person. It's not like a celebration or anything. You're mourning.
Yeah.
Anyway, we sang this mantra, and it was Joe's birthday, Ido's partner, who passed away. And at the end of the mantra, Ido was just smiling, and he was just happy. And I just couldn't understand. I couldn't wrap my brain around it. And I said to him, I was like, how are you so happy? Like, your partner, like, she passed away. And he's like, because every time I do mantra and every time I do puja, I'm connecting with Joe.
Mm.
It makes me so happy. And it was just like this bomb dropped, where I was like, oh, okay, this bhakti yoga, like, it's a thing. Like, it's like this devotion to something greater than just our little individual existence. Like, it works. And not only does it work, but it allows you to connect to this, state of love. And Krishna Das will say, bhakti is the yoga of love. It's the yoga of the heart, and it's, meditation kind of helped me understand. Meditation gave me the perspective. Meditation gave me the ability to untether my mind from my soul. And then bhakti yoga, specifically kirtan and mantra practice, allowed me to connect to that field of love and infinite potentiality in a way that I feel like, for the most part, it's kind of, flickering through my fingertips, and it's kind of navigating this system, whether it's playing guitar or teaching or running a kirtan or having a conversation with someone on the beach that, looks a little bit upset, just to uplift them in whatever way that I can. Bhakti yoga was kind of what did that.
Yeah, I feel like meditation gets you to the door, and devotion is what makes it open.
Beautiful.
So
Beautiful.
yeah, it's it's so, you know, every time you go back to it, you know, you let go of the practice of bhakti or kirtan, and then you pick it up and you get back into it, and it just allows that flow to get going again. If you've forgotten and you've fallen into a bit of a stagnancy with allowing that, because often, you know, in the Western model of fulfillment and happiness is import, you know, but
Mhm.
the truth that we know is that you are fulfilled, you are happy, and it has to come out. And that the bhakti is an attitude, right? Devotion is an attitude from which you see the world, for which you serve. And you know, when because we're on a path of embodying this stuff, you forget sometimes, and you find yourself looking outwards again, and you fall back into that habit of looking out again. And then just picking up the guitar and playing some mantra and allowing that flow to come from inside. Oh, it's here. It's always been here. Fuck, I forgot, you know? And it just allows it to automatically just happen. Just once you get the ingrain that pattern, it allows that flow just to spontaneously arise again, and you get reorientated to the world. So that's what I love about it. And are you going to talk about the course that you run online for that now?
Yeah.
Good transition, huh?
It's reminding me. But, you know, it's interesting because there's so much free mantra stuff out there. You know, there's so much availability to knowledge now, and it's a beautiful thing. And whilst it's a beautiful thing, what it lacks is direction.
Mm.
What it lacks is structure. And basically, we wanted to put together the stuff that we felt really passionate about, Irene and myself, that we didn't have time to teach on teacher trainings, specifically about mantra and kirtan and deities and sound and what is this sound of Om? Like, we chanted in yoga classes, but how many yoga teachers actually understand the symbolism of it, or how many yoga teachers understand what it is?
Mm-hmm.
The primordial sound that the rishis made, and not only did they make it, but they made it because they heard it when they were really deep and quiet in meditation. And
Mm-hmm.
out of that sound, they cognized all of the bodies of knowledge that we use today. I mean, it's pretty deep and profound stuff, to the point where when I really started to get into it, I actually wouldn't chant Om in my classes because it was too intimate of a practice for me to
Mm-hmm.
just kind of be like, okay, everyone, let's all chant Om now. Inhale. And then like half the class is not doing it because they're just in their head going like, why are we Omming? Like, I'm out. And then, the 3 or 4 people are like Omming. And it just was so disconnected for me that I stopped chanting Om in my classes because it was such a profound practice. I once had a teacher say, you want to become enlightened quick, do Om for 10 minutes every day. And it's the most powerful, one of the most powerful mantras, and one of the quickest routes into that path of meditation that we've been talking about. And so anyway, so we put this course together in the hopes that it would give people an understanding of the level of depth within these practices, and then also how to develop these practices for yourself, under the guidance of the course, and then ongoing support from us or other teachers. And, it's interesting. I was having a conversation with a friend the other day, and I just want to describe or outline the level of depth. How much time do we have, by the way? Almost there. I want to outline the level of depth that these mantras carry, because often, we hear Deva Premal doing Gayatri Mantra and we're just like, that's so nice and that sounds so beautiful. And our understanding of Gayatri Mantra just kind of stops there. We don't really realize its potency and its power. I was having a conversation with a friend, and she was saying, like, some days I just wake up and I just feel like chanting to Hanuman, and other times I just want to chant to Ganesh, and then sometimes I just want to chant to Shiva. And I said, but what are you actually experiencing when you're chanting these things? And she proceeded to reply, and then I said, and what are you experiencing in your daily life that's different? And she was like, well, not really much. And we had this conversation around mantra, and like, when we're chanting these mantras, we want to become intimate with them. We want to become deeply familiar with them. Why do we in Vedic meditation get one mantra for a year that you have to do every day, twice a day? because it becomes part of you. You know, my sadhana that I got from Rod, it's one mantra, and he's like, do it every day until I tell you otherwise. And whilst it's fine to do this mantra today and this mantra tomorrow and chant to Hanuman and chant to Ganesh, if you really, in my opinion, if you really want to experience the depth, which is an ocean of what these mantras have to offer, you need to spend time with them, and you need to spend time committing to them, particularly when you feel like you don't want to. Because when you feel like you don't want to and you still show up, just like in a relationship, your partner realizes that you love them even more. And these mantras realize that even though things are tough, you're still showing yourself to them. And so they reveal a little more of themselves to you, and a little more of themselves to you, and more and more and more. And just in the way that we would in a intimate relationship with a partner, we do that with our mantras, and we become deeper and deeper deeper and deeper acquainted and more familiar with these mantras, because they're actually beings.
And like you said, and like the course says, we are vibration. And so, like you said, we become the mantra. The mantra becomes part of us.
Yeah.
And yeah, we re-embody that vibration. So yeah, it's super powerful.
Yeah, and there's also, you know, and to take that even deeper, is that it's already part of us. We're just remembering that. Mm-hmm. Remembering it through repetition, and we're allowing ourselves to go, oh, okay, I'm actually this thing that's like, I'm like a jellyfish floating through the ocean, you know. I actually am part of the ocean.
Yeah.
We're not separate to it, you know, it's all one thing.
And enlivening it as well, enlivening those aspects, you know, because we are all of it, but we also individual. And so we can choose specific mantras to enliven specific things, which is part of that as well.
Absolutely. And because they're qualities that we already have, we've forgotten that we have them. Mm-hmm. You know, when someone is extremely stressed, they're, as you know, as you would know this, they're operating from a very very few set of what's the word I'm looking for? Responses, yeah, or impulses. You know, when we de-excite the mind, we learn to meditate, we release stress, we release fatigue. All of a sudden, we have all these different options of how we want to respond, how we want to react to different things as they happen. And I was, you know, describing this to a student, we almost see things in slow motion. You know, something happens and there's just there's all of a sudden there's this huge gap of time that we can choose to respond creatively or dynamically or playfully or intimately or sincerely, rather than just our haphazard reaction of how we might be used to engaging. Mm-hmm. And these mantras, they allow us to become more familiar with these qualities that are actually within ourselves already. So, you know, if I want to be love, if I use bhakti as the example, and I want to feel more love and devotion, I can't just tell myself that. Mm-hmm. If I'm an asshole, I'm still going to be an asshole. If it's off, I'm still going to like, what, you know, blah, blah, blah. Like, I have to practice every day, and you know more than anyone. Like you have to do your puja, or you have to do your yagya, or you have to go to India and sit in service, or do your karma. Like you have to do these processes over and over and over again, so that you can remember who you are as opposed to who you're not. Mm-hmm. And you know, we're forever reminded in the world who we're not. You know, social media and going out on the street, it's very easy to forget who we are. And so we need these practices, you know, every day, over and over and over again. And the same ones, I can't stress this point enough, you know, and finding a teacher. Just released another post on how do you find a teacher? It's a really common question that I get. And when you find a teacher, like stick with them, even though it might feel uncomfortable sometimes, rather than just like, oh, okay, now this other teacher is doing this thing, and now I'm just going to go over here. I mean, I see it a lot in the kind of like, you know, neo-tantra world, or like the pseudo-spiritual world of just like, I have, you know, this teacher for this, and then this one for this, and this one for this, and this one for this. It's like, that is, you know, traditionally speaking, from a traditional standpoint, that's just not, you know, not the way it goes. You might have one or two teachers, you know, at the max 3 teachers in different fields, but, you know, just jumping teaching ships because something's uncomfortable or a teacher has called you out, it's, you know, it's definitely something to acknowledge and something to sit with.
Mm-hmm. Well, Josh, I think we'll wrap it up there for today, but we're gonna have to do a take two, and we'll have to do it in real life, and we'll have to do a yagya and have some dal and beetroot curry sometime.
That I'd love that.
Beautiful.
Taking the time.
Sweet, man. How long does that course go for, the We Are Vibration course?
At the moment, we're running it in cohorts, so we're giving people 2 weeks to do it. But if you were really hungry, you could do it in 2 days very easily.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. So you're doing it, and you're also connecting? It's online. They get the course content, and you're also connecting with them over Zoom calls.
Yeah, at the moment, you can't purchase the course. You have to do it within the cohort structure, but eventually the course will be released for people to do on their own. But so they do the course, and then they have 2 calls with us over the 2 weeks that they do the course. So the next cohort will be in, what month is it? May, in June.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And like you said, there's also so much information out there, and the same with meditation. But you get a teacher, and you get the unbounded ocean put into a very cleverly focused river, and it just allows you to get that momentum and to understand all this stuff and have a deeper experience of it much quicker. And so, yeah.
It's like being stuck in the middle of the ocean with a little life raft versus an ocean liner.
Yeah.
Good you can just navigate the high seas for you, and there's waves everywhere, and you feel held and supported. Whereas if you're in a little raft, then you're just being thrown around and trying to breathe and survive. And yeah,
you're basically really, shark bait then.
You're basically shark bait. Yeah. Get a teacher, find a teacher, spiritual tradie.
And we find you on the On People on Insta.
Yeah, Josh Blau on Instagram.
You did change your Insta handle, didn't you?
A few times.
You did used to have the longest, most annoying Insta handle because it couldn't be on one line. You couldn't fit it in.
Yoga meditation.
It's now shorter, right?
Yes, it's just Josh Blau, 2 words.
Okay.
You want to tag me when you're listening to this podcast. Yeah, it's that was part of my loss of identification around Instagram. I just didn't know who I was. And anyway, I feel like we'll chat in the next body about that.
No worries, man. Too easy.
Good to see you, brother.